Take one.
All right, guys, we're here to do a little vlog because tonight the MLB draft starts at 6 Central Time. Do the first 2 rounds tonight, rounds 3 through 10 tomorrow, and 11 through 40 on Saturday. Obviously, with the Super Regional coming up this weekend, LSU facing Oklahoma. You got a couple pitchers tonight that will probably go in the first 2 rounds tonight. And Ryan Eads for LSU and Jonathan Gray for Oklahoma.
And Gray throws about 99 miles per hour. He can touch up to 100. So LSU is really going to have to try to catch up with his pitches because there's really nobody on the LSU staff with the raw stuff that Gray has and that he can give. Gray's breaking ball can be a little iffy at times, but if he's getting it over the plate and throwing it for strikes, LSU could really struggle with it. We both know we were at practice on, what was that, Monday? Tuesday, and LSU had their pitching machine ramped up to about as high as velocity it could go. It was really popping the back of the batting cage. So I think Gray could definitely, Gray's obviously going to be one of the top 5 picks. Where do you think Eads is going to go?
I see Eads, I think he has the stuff to be a middle to better first-round pick, but I think just because he's a little bit inconsistent with his command and just sometimes just struggles with just starts, you just can't understand how he struggles so much. His numbers are good. He was 8-1 on the season. He had a very good year, but I see him more as late. I could see maybe he could sneak into that late first round, but I see him more as a compensatory pick.
Yeah, definitely maybe in the supplemental first round as well.
Maybe late 30s, but I can't see him going past the top of the second round.
He definitely has the stuff for, I don't think he's an ace on an MLB staff by any means, but he could definitely be a 3 to 5 in your rotation and definitely eat innings just because he's got the fastball that can hit 94. And his best pitch is probably his curveball when he has it. It's just rarely has it. So you've got Gray, but the big matchup this weekend between LSU and Oklahoma is going to be with Gray and Nola, because Nola's obviously the ace, and when he does go, he will probably go in that same 1 to 5 range. So just what do you think between Mark, or what's his name?
Mark Apple.
Yeah, Mark Apple from
Stanford. Also going to be a
Stanford.
top 5 pick.
Jonathan Gray, Nola. If you had one pick to start a franchise with, which pitcher would you take in the first round?
That's tough, man. I think at the moment Apple is the most refined big league ready product, but I think Nola and Gray both have better pure stuff than he does. And I think if you look at what the numbers Nola's put up, you figure he's been in the SEC, 11-0 this year. It's hard to go against Nola, but I'd say if I had one game to win, I think I'd take Nola. But I think if I was building a franchise around it, I think I'd have to go with. I think I'd roll the dice with Gray. I think Gray has the best stuff.
Just as pure raw, potential with the arm, being able to.
I think if he can refine his curveball and maybe. And, if he could ever learn a changeup, he would be filthy. If he could ever just get a changeup that he could just get over the plate in the mid-80s, even high 80s as hard as he throws.
Well, you also know with Gray, you could probably, even if he doesn't develop into a pure starter, you could throw him in as a closer, and he might be able to work just in, that one-inning situation where he can really wow people with his stuff, and then, like you said, maybe develop a changeup to get guys out on the front foot. Gray does have probably the best stats out of all of them, just going through it. His whip is .81. He's allowing less than 1 walk and 1 hit per inning. And with somebody with as live of his arm as he has, to walk as few batters as he does, it's pretty impressive. And then his fielding independent pitching, which kind of takes into account how much your defense helps you, is right in that good to excellent range for MLB pitchers at 3.22. So I think he definitely has the most potential, but I think what you said, if you had, for me, between Nola and him, it's a kind of a toss-up. I think Apple, what you're getting with him. He's the refined pitcher already. He doesn't have, any more room to grow. I think what he is right now is what he's going to be 5 years down the road. You don't really know what Gray's going to be. He could be the ace of a staff, or he could be in the bullpen,
Yeah. I think Apple has the stuff to be an ace because he does throw that 90. He throws 93, 94, which is more than hard enough to get big leaguers hitters out. I think out of the 3 of them, he definitely has the most refined breaking ball and control at the moment. But I think when you see Gray, when you have a guy who can throw in the upper 90s consistently for 110 pitches a night, you start thinking about guys like Verlander and guys who are like that, and Kershaw, who are that upper echelon ace that not every team gets a chance at. And you're right. I could see very easily, if he never refines his breaking ball, you could throw him in a big league bullpen right now, coming out probably throw 101.
Yeah.
You had to just rev it up for one inning.
Mm-hmm.
He could be like an Aroldis Chapman type guy, but right-handed, where he could just come in, and maybe it doesn't work out in his big leagues as a starter, but at the very least, I can't imagine him not being a very good reliever throwing that hard.
Yeah, one of his, I thought, one of the most impressive things he did this season was in his first regional game, they pitched him against Coastal Carolina, and he actually got pretty lit up in the first inning, or first couple innings. He gave up 3 runs, but he ended up going all 9, didn't give up a run for the rest of the game, and he was consistently touching the high 90s throughout the entire game, which is something that a lot of people can't do. I mean, there's a lot of pitchers you could probably throw 97 for an inning, but he was doing it for the entire 9, so it was really impressive.
Does the positive Adderall test give you any pause if you're thinking about taking Gray with one of those? Because, I mean, let's be real. I can't see Apple or Gray falling out of the top 3 or 4 picks. No matter what happens.
No.
I can't see 3 or 4 teams passing on 2 starters this good. I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about any of these high school pitchers, but these kids are the 2 best pitchers in the country this year.
Yeah, the Adderall test, there's things that, maybe if you test positive for marijuana and it's just like 3rd or 4th failed test, you go, maybe the kid's got some character concerns. But I mean, if this really is his first failed test and all it was is Adderall, then if I'm a franchise, I just get my doctor to write him a prescription for Adderall. But other than that, I don't have any problems taking either one of them in the top 5. Either one of them can go first or second. And I think Nola will definitely be in that range when he comes out, probably next year.
It's hard to imagine there being more than one pitcher, maybe 1 or 2 pitchers that are as good or better than Austin Nola coming out in next year's draft.
And then, but the big thing right now is the Houston Astros, who own the number 1 pick, aren't currently projected to take either Gray or Appel because they're getting the Colin Moran, the 3rd baseman out of North Carolina. Because they're going to try to save money in a true Houston Astros move for their first pick. Moran's been, he's good. He's got an OPS over 1,000 on the season. But, I mean, I just can't see taking a 3rd baseman who, to me, he's not a top, just looking at him, he's not that top-notch 3rd baseman like an Evan Longoria or something. And he doesn't really give you a whole lot of upside when you've got Gray and Apple right there who could both go, top of your rotation stuff.
I mean, they went with the shortstop, the prep high school shortstop, Chris Correa, I believe his name was last year, and no one believed that he was the top player in the country either. But it's just really hard for me to I know they're going to do it, but it's just so hard for me to justify them taking Colin. It's not a knock against him. No. I mean, he's great. He's a top 10 pick. Mm-hmm. But if I was going to take a player, if I'm Houston, I mean, Houston has no power. If I'm Houston and I'm going to take a position player number 1 overall, I got to take this kid, Chris Bryant, out of San Diego.
31 home runs.
This kid hit 31 home runs. Drove in 62 runs on a team that
was terrible.
Terrible. Yeah, they're not playing anymore.
They're probably on level with Jackson State from what you saw against LSU this weekend. I mean, Jackson State had a couple of good position players as well, but you could tell their outfielder, Chuck Tillery, and then their DH, Nico Knowles, who were both named to the all-regional team, were just kind of a cut above the rest. This kid is probably a cut above the rest of everybody in the nation in terms of power. Yeah.
You imagine, because think about it, if he's on a team that's where everyone else is a cut below him, how many pitches do you guys really think he's getting to hit? He hit over 300. I mean, the guy he hit 31 home runs, drove in 62 runs. That just shows that there's no help on that team.
It's Justin Upton-like from this season with the Braves. Just had nobody on base in front of him. I would assume, I mean, I didn't watch a whole lot of San Diego games, as you might imagine, but he didn't have anybody on base in front of him whenever they were pitching to him. If he had anybody on base, they probably just pitched out and gave him the walk. But he did slug 800 on the season. I mean, the kid, if you're going by the 20-80 scale in terms of the baseball scouting, I would say definitely has an 80 on the power scale, which, I mean, that doesn't come around a whole lot. Probably the last person who had as much raw power as him would be Bryce Harper. Just basically been able to hit any pitch anywhere over the fence. So he could be a good pickup for the Astros if they're not going to pick a pitcher. But I just, like you said, there's no knock on Moran. I think he's going to be a solid player. I can definitely see him in the majors, but not as a number 1 pick, just to save money so you can spend more in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. It doesn't make any sense to me.
But the way I look at this kid, Chris Bryant, he's a 3rd baseman, but I think He's 6'5", 215, so I think he might be a little bit too big to stay at third base.
Yeah, for sure.
But he has experience playing the outfield as well. It's just, I don't know. If you were to go with a position player, I think that first overall pick, you got to hit a home run with that first overall pick.
You can't just hit like a double and be happy with it, because especially if you're the Astros, you don't have a whole lot of top-notch talent already. You might have a couple guys who are going to be good, but you need a guy that can really anchor that lineup, hitting that 4 spot and driving a bunch of runs.
I mean, let's say the plan is for Korea, who they took last year, to come out and be a shortstop. You're not going to get a lot of power out of him. If he's as good as they think he is, he might be like a 320 hitter, but he's not going to be like a 30 home run, 100 RBI guy. And you got to get that run production from somewhere. And like I said, it's not a knock on Moran. I think he's a very good player. I'm sure he could be an all-star third baseman one day. But with this Bryant kid, you have a chance at having like
40 home runs,
120 RBIs.
Yeah.
Like a guy who's going to produce runs, which they don't have any of.
Another guy with a lot of power that's kind of really a wild card pick in this draft is Jacoby Jones for LSU. The kid, I mean, I went to practice the day after he came back from his wrist injury, and he hit 3 straight bombs over. He put 1 in left field, 1 in center, and 1 in right, just to kind of show his raw power. He could really go, depending on what teams look at him and what they saw, anywhere between, I think, back end, maybe the supplemental round in the first round, all the way to like 4 or 5, just because of his raw tools. I mean, he could give you Gold Glove defense at second base and then hit maybe I think he's got the power to hit 20, 25 home runs in the majors.
He has a lot of ability. His production level gives you pause, because you look at the tools and you look at the ability you see there, and you look at him only hitting 280 and in the middle, kind of bottom middle of the order on this team, and it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to you. Like, you see a guy like him hitting 280, and you see much less talented hitters, like, I'm not saying less talented, but the guys with a lot less raw ability, like Mason Katz and Ray Frimes, putting up a lot better numbers than Jacoby Jones.
Yeah.
And you just have to pause and be like, he has the ability, but will he put it together? Because if he puts it together, he has all the ability of an all-star major league second baseman.
Oh, he could definitely be an all-star at the next level, just because, like I said, second baseman in the major leagues, if you can get some power production and guy that can drive in a couple runs, just in terms of positional value, it's a very good thing. And he could really give you about 20 to 25 home runs, hitting in maybe the 6th spot of the order, steal 15, 20 bases, and then give you that Gold Glove defense. He's got all the raw tools. It's just where his head's at, and if he's going to be able to put all of this talent together into a one complete player. I do have to say it probably frustrates him that he's hitting balls, like rocket balls, that are going straight at the center fielder, and then he's got Ray Frimes, who's blooping things into the Ray Bermuda triangle in right field, because I don't see Rhymes ever being able to contribute at the major league level in any productive way, because he doesn't really have a whole lot of power. He's not going to hit a whole lot of home runs. He's not going to give you really great defense. He can't run, doesn't have a great arm. All he really does is hit singles, and that's just not an MLB skill set.
I don't see him being anything beyond. I think the best he can project, the most optimistic projection for Rhymes is like a 4th outfielder.
Yeah.
A guy who can come in and play like twice a week against lefty starters.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to make contact. He's not going to strike out a whole lot, but he doesn't walk a whole lot either, just because he makes so much contact with that swing. So I think, the best case scenario for him is 4th outfielder, maybe pinch hitter, where you need somebody to make contact to drive in a run, even if it's a ground out in the end of the game. So, but I mean, worst case, he just journeyman throughout the minors.
Another guy put up big numbers this year, but might not get picked that high. Where do you think Mason Katz got in that wind up?
It depends. He's not a first baseman. He's too small. There's just, I know it's kind of weird to say that a guy that's probably 5'11", 210 pounds is too small, but first baseman in the MLB, you need to be this big,
you have to be a 6'2". You got to be a big target.
Yeah, you got to be a big target. You got to be able to make the stretch, and he's just not big enough to do it. And then while he does have decent power, it's not like when he hits a home run, most of the time it's to pull, and it's not gonna go. He doesn't have that power that wows you as maybe like a Chris Bryant or Jacoby Jones. So if he switches positions, I know he's talked about before how he wants to play second base, in the majors. If he can just make that switch athletically and provide adequate defense, then I can see him potentially, making a major league roster just because I know his work ethic. But in terms of putting up the same production you saw at LSU to transfer to the next level, I just don't see it happening.
He definitely hits well enough to be a major league second baseman.
Yeah.
My major question about him is that his power is almost exclusively to left field.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about guys like Jones or Bryant, guys with that power that you're talking about, they have to have power to all fields. Because if not, they're just going to work him away and make him try to pull the ball to the big part of the ballpark, and it's just you get a lot of fly balls to the outfield in major league parks with that.
Yeah, I think once you have major league scouting reports on him to where they can really focus in on what he likes and what he doesn't like, and then pitchers who can actually hit those spots consistently at the next level, then I can see him struggling. But, he obviously has talent. You don't hit like he's hit at this level in the SEC without having talent. So he's not going in the first 2 rounds. I don't see him going in the first 10 even.
Yeah,
I see him in like a 15 to 25 range in terms of, where he's taken. And then if he gets into a good organization that really takes the time to develop him, puts him on, a good, weight program to where he can add a little muscle, maybe add a little bit to that power, and then he learns how to play second base a little better. He showed in the SEC tournament that he could play it a little bit. But it just depends. He's not playing first base, and then I don't think he's fast enough to play outfield like he did his junior season.
Real interesting guy might get drafted, or will get drafted at some point. Ty Ross, real good defensive catcher, really very strong catch and throw guy, stronger catch and throw guys you have in college baseball at this time. Really unlucky hitter.
Yeah, no, he's literally the most cursed man on LSU's roster. He's hitting. I haven't looked at his batting average, but I know he's batting...
It's well below 250.
Yeah, his batting average on balls in play is around 220, which is 90 points below the MLB league average. So if he ever can figure out... One of the big things that Ross does, I've never seen this happen, during the Florida series, Florida's one of the most, they really look at their statistics, and their manager's a really smart guy. They actually put an opposite field shift on for Ross, because for some reason Ross puts almost everything into right field. So if they can fix his swing to where he's he can put it a little more, he's got the power to put it to any field, then I could see him really developing into a good catcher in the majors. Because like you said, major league teams need those guys that can, maybe not your first catcher, but a guy that can come in on an off day for a catcher and just be able to hold the fort down defensively.
Yeah, for a defensive catcher, it's defense, defense, and defense. If you have a backup catcher that can hit, you're living in luxury, because most teams don't have a catcher that can hit, much less 2. But if he continues to, the one thing he does have going for him, which is the same thing Jones has going for him, he has a major league body.
Yeah,
he's a big, strong kid playing catcher. He's big, but he's not too tall, which is an issue. You have a lot of college catchers that guys who are 6'5" and can't squat or receive the ball well enough. But he looks like he could be a big league catcher. And I think if he gets in working with a big league hitting coach, they can get his swing straightened out. He's a pretty similar situation to the rest of them. I don't think he won't be picked tonight, obviously.
No, not in the first
he could
rounds.
sneak into the late rounds tomorrow in those 8 through 10 area.
Yeah,
but most likely you're talking about a guy getting picked on Saturday.
It really is, like you said, a luxury to where if they can develop this guy's swing a little bit and he hits maybe 250 in the majors, and then, he's got the power to hit, 10, 15 home runs. If that's your backup catcher, that's a career for 15 years.
Yeah.
And then just with his arm and the way he frames his pitches for the pitcher, you can ask, Nola, Eads, and then Glenn about how much he helps them on the mound in terms of framing pitches. He's going to have a career in the MLB, I think, for sure. The guy who might not have a career in the MLB, but you just never know because of how productive he's been, is LSU closer Chris Cotton.
I love Chris Cotton. A story on Chris Cotton coming out next week. Basically, Chris Cotton all he's done is just dominate people while throwing 85 to 88 miles an hour. But I think someone will draft him. Because I'm not saying he'll be a big league closer. I know he's got great command. He's got command of all 3 pitches. He's lefty. People will give almost any lefty who can get out's a chance.
Yeah,
in the big leagues.
He'll definitely get a chance. I don't know if, unless you have a setup guy who is the flamethrower, where he's throwing 99 in the 8th inning and can really get people out with that fastball. And then you can bring Cotton in to where the closer and is a right-hand. Maybe you got a right-handed setup man, and then you go left with Cotton just to keep the teams off balance. I mean, like you said, the knock on him is always, he doesn't have the stuff. Like, he's just, he throws 85. He's not. I mean, he's 5'10", 170 pounds. He's just not. He doesn't have the just sheer physical body that the other pitchers do.
Yeah.
But he's always dominated, and he dominated in a very tough baseball league in college. So you'd think that a team would give him a chance, but you just never know with these MLB teams because they always want to project out. And I don't think Cotton projects out any. I think he's who he is. Yeah. And so if you like that and you think he can, maybe give you some innings in the 6th and 7th, then you take him, but if not, then I don't know.
But I think a team will give him a chance, though. I mean, if you look at the numbers, he had an ERA in the mid-1s last year as a junior, as working more as a lefty specialist and middle reliever. This year they put him in the closer role, and he got even better. Currently, he had a 1.29 ERA. He struck out 45 batters and only allowed 27 base runners all season. That's not an accident. No. He's hitting your spots. But I think with his curveball and his command of all three pitches, I think he could at least be like a lefty specialist in the bigs at some point. But that's all. I mean, I think a team will give him a chance just because of the production. Because you don't save 16 games to pitch to a 1.29 ERA in the SEC by accident. Yeah, no, he definitely. When you can put that curveball on any portion of the plate for a strike, it's gonna, especially on a first pitch, because pretty much unless you have, this guy's gonna throw a curveball or a breaking ball on the first pitch, you're not expecting it. So I think he can definitely succeed as a lefty specialist. Like I said, if he gets into a situation where he's got the righty setup man, then maybe as a closer. But I think he's more of the lefty specialist. I think a team will definitely give him a chance just because of his production. I mean, he retired. 23 straight batters from May 11th up until he gave up. Yeah, June 1st. He gave up a walk in the regional, which that's unheard of. So I think he should project out well to a good lefty specialist. I don't know about anything more just because of his limitations physically. Yeah. Alrighty, well, I hope you enjoyed the vlog. I'm sure we'll be asked to do a couple more of these. I'm Trey Labat. This is James Moran, and we'll see you next time.